Week 1 is in the books, so that means it's time to hit those waiver wires to find players that could add value to the back end of your rosters. Quick note though, just like last week, I'm going to be referencing rostership percentages in this video, and those are coming from roster data from 1,700 Dynasty leagues on myfantasyleague.com. Basically a 50-50 split of one quarterback in Superflex, all with a minimum of 20-man rosters. So I'm not pulling these players out of nowhere. It is possible that some or all of these guys are already rostered in your leagues, perhaps even by you, but for the most part, there are hundreds of leagues out there where these guys are on waivers. First and foremost, I want to highlight a couple of players that are already highly rostered but are not 100% rostered that I think should be, and you should double check just to be sure, because if these guys are on your waivers, you need to pick them up immediately. And that's Eno Benjamin, Jeff Wilson, Jaylen Warren, Isaiah McKenzie, Sterling Shepard, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Hayden Hurst. Again, all guys rostered in over 95% of Dynasty leagues, but not 100%. So double check your waivers and immediately add these guys if they're available. So first up on the list today is Texans running back Rex Burkhead, who's available in only 6% of leagues. So I could have easily just included him in the double check and immediately add section, but I wanted to emphasize my confidence in picking up Burkhead with a lot of fab this week. I mean, number one, he's probably going to be the hottest name on waivers in Dynasty in every league that he's available. So naturally, he's just going to be an expensive player to add. But number two, at worst, production-wise, he's a receiving back on a bad team. But at best, like we saw on Sunday, he's a starting running back with volume. And while everybody was drooling over day 3 rookie Dameon Pierce and idiotically buying Pierce for 2023 first, Burkhead is the proven veteran on this team, and that showed on Sunday. He outsnapped the rookie 49-19, out-touched him 19-12, and they both averaged the same 3-point yards per carry and the same 6.0 yards per reception, but Burkhead was the guy nonetheless. Perhaps most importantly, he was second on the team in targets behind Brandon Cooks with 8, with no other player seeing more than 3 targets. His receiving volume alone is going to make him a relevant fantasy asset every week, and it's also going to be the reason why Dameon Pierce's fantasy ceiling is limited in this 2022 season. This is a bad team with a bad offensive line and subpar quarterback play, so Burkhead will be involved more often than not. And if he's on your Dynasty waivers right now, I'm spending a huge chunk of my fab to go out and get him. All right, quick question. Do you know who the best rookie receiver was in week 1? Well, it was actually my boy Jahan Dotson repping my Nittany Lions. But second on the list is Kyle Phillps, who was at best probably a 4th round pick in your rookie drafts this season, if not more likely going undrafted. Phillps was starting to gain some hype during training camp while Treylon Burks was struggling, and apparently that hype has translated to the real thing, because Phillps decidedly led the Titans in targets with 9 this past Sunday, while Burks was the next closest with 5, and Phillps hauled in 6 catches for 66 yards on those 9 targets, and 4 of those 9 came on the final drive when Tennessee was trying to get into field goal range to win the game, including the 21-yard reception that put them inside the 30 for a field goal attempt. Now, you can take this as garbage time padding of the stats, as he wouldn't have had these targets if the Titans defense prevented the Giants from driving over 70 yards to score the game-winning touchdown. Or you could take it as Tannehill's go-to guy in the clutch, not Treylon Burks, not Robert Woods, it's Kyle Phillps. And for that reason, he's a must-add off waivers if he is still available, just to see what happens, because he could end up being a PPR kind of slot guy for you, just to get you double-digit weeks during a injury or bye week fill-in, and you might need that any given week this season. Next up is for the Superflex people out there, and even then, this isn't a very confident ad. It's just because he's now a starting quarterback, and that's Cooper Rush, and I don't really know what to say to really make a strong argument for Rush, minus the fact that he's a starter now. I mean, we basically had the same situation back in 2020 when Dak hurt his ankle, missed the entire season with essentially the same Cowboys team. And in Dak's stead, Andy Dalton had 2 QB1 weeks, so I'll give him that, 2 QB1 weeks. But after that, every other game was between QB19 and QB30, which is not really what you want in your Superflex spot. Not to mention that I think Andy Dalton 2 years ago is better than Cooper Rush now. Plus, Dalton also had Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup, while Rush really only has one of them right now. And if all that's not enough, Dallas has been put on Jimmy Garoppolo watch if they really wanted to try to stay competitive while Dak is out to stay in the playoff hunt, which means Rush might not even be the starter if they do trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. honestly, like, all of this just makes me not want to even waste fab on picking up Cooper Rush and hold it for something better in the coming weeks, because even if you do win him, you're probably not playing him, and you probably can't even trade for more than like a 4th round rookie pick in 2023 or even 2024. So to me, that's just not really worth it. I'm not wasting my fab on Cooper Rush, even in Superflex leagues. And finally, we get to our last player, who's apparently the wide receiver 1 in Arizona, and that's Greg Dortch. And I actually think there was a lot at play here that made Dortch succeed for this week that scares me over the entire season, but for right now, it makes him an awesome pickup. The Cardinals were obviously without DeAndre Hopkins, but they were also without Rondale Moore, who injured his hamstring on Thursday during practice. Now, hamstring injuries are no joke, especially early on in the season, and especially when Rondale Moore already has a history of hamstring injuries in college, including in 2019, that ended his entire college season. If Rondale Moore were to miss extended time, even just like 2 to 4 weeks, Dortch is the wide receiver 2 until Moore or DeAndre Hopkins return, which has already shown to be a valuable role with Kyler Murray. We all expected great things from Hollywood Brown without DeAndre Hopkins, but the truth is that Hollywood probably isn't an alpha and probably shouldn't be relied on as a team's wide receiver 1. If defenses are honed in on taking out Hollywood Brown and then they're focusing on James Conner in the rush, Kyler might have to rely more on Greg Dortch in the passing game, especially when you have just an aging AJ Green and a limited Zach Ertz. Dortch is available in basically every single Dynasty league out there right now, and he should be added in every league that has at least 22-man rosters. Of course, you're probably wondering at this point, who should you even drop to add these guys in the first place? And just like this video last week, the answer is basically just back-end wide receivers, guys who are like the wide receiver 8, 9, 10s on your team that aren't even really playing for their NFL team. I'm talking about guys like Jalen Reagor, Marquez Callaway, Cedric Wilson, Nick Westbrook-Ikine, Diami Brown, Nelson Aguilar, all those kind of wide receivers. You don't really need to keep stashing them to just see what happens. We already have guys that are producing now, like Greg Dortch, that you can just easily churn through, pick up Greg Dortch, drop Diami Brown, easy as pie. I will be doing a video like this every week during the season, so if you're not yet, please subscribe to the channel for videos like this and much, much more to help you guys dominate your Dynasty leagues this year. And to help you a little bit more with that, since we're still early on and still just in week 1, here are 5 tips for you to keep in mind during the 2022 NFL season.